Then we have lots more components to style. So we started doing CSS in JavaScript. Instead of actually using style sheets, we are applying them via the ultimately inline styles via JavaScript. We learned some things that we have to do differently when we do it that way. The syntax is a little different. CSS and JavaScript is a whole thing. Many very strongly worded blog posts on the subject. Some people saying it is the worst thing anyone has ever done, and some people are saying you're completely irresponsible if you're not doing it. The truth, as you might imagine, is somewhere in the middle. I like it. One of the reasons I like it is because in React Native, you have to do that. So if you happen to do that in React for the web, you can share some of your styles between the two, which saves quite a bit of trouble. And there is the whole advantage of actually scoping your styles to a single component. So I like it. But there are a lot of different solutions for doing CSS in JavaScript. And so far, we've learned one of them, which is to actually use inline styles. And we're going to learn one of the others when we start running into trouble doing this with some of those things I pointed out yesterday, that you can't do things like hover. So we'll see how to do that. So I'll just start from the left. In the sidebar, we have more potential components in there. So in sidebar, we have this user info. I capitalized that class name, and in static, there is in fact a user info.css. So that seems like a candidate to do this. So let's do it. I'll make a new component called capital U user info.js. It will be a stateless functional component. So import React from React. Const user info equals arrow function. Export default user info. I will just return some JSX. And I'll probably put a div with a class of user info in there. And that's going to look like what we have in sidebar here. So here's user info. So I will just take that entire section out, paste it in here, fix my indentation. Already some stuff isn't going to work. I've got props.user.username right, and I don't have any props yet. That's fine. We can fix that. So let's go ahead and import user info here. Import user info from /user info. Put in a tag. And we'll need to pass in user equals props.user. So we'll have that prop in here too, so I can say props.user.username. And it should be just exactly as it was before if I didn't mess it up, but I totally did, because styles is in there. Style equals styles.children, because over here we defined this padding 0, 1 rim, and now that's not defined in here. So I'm going to have to kind of redo that thing. That's okay. We'll redo it. Okay, so I at least have that component again. My indentation is screwed up. And we can start thinking about some of these styles. I already see this one has the hover thing, so we're going to run into trouble here. So we may as well start learning a different way to do this. I really wish he hadn't left the room right then, because I'm about to explain one of two. There are two things I could do right now, but both of them are brand new concepts. So avatar here also is kind of screaming to be a separate component. So we'll probably do that. And we can start sort of copying these style things in here. I don't know that there is a ton of advantage in typing all this out in class. I'll just what I recommend for this next little bit, because we're going to be making a ton of components really fast, and it was the homework last night, is probably just pay attention and copy it when I'm done, with a couple of exceptions that I'll point out that you'll actually need to do in your projects. But retyping all these CSS rules in class is not, it's not going to teach you anything, and it's going to take for freaking ever. So I will be doing a lot of copying and pasting here. So I made 3 styles. Because avatar, we're going to extract into its own thing. And this link that has a hover thing, I'm going to extract that into its own component too. To simplify things, that is the sign out button here. So I'm going to extract sign out to its own thing too. So I need the actual outer div, which is info here. So I'm going to put style equals styles.info on the user info div. And notice I just added padding 0.1 rim here. That wasn't in this style sheet because it was getting from that children rule in the previous component. So since we're not in that component anymore, I'm just going to do it here. Avatar, we have a margin right of 0.5 rim. User flex 1, that's what this is. That just makes that thing take up the space that it needs. So user info needs styles.info there. Avatar needs styles.avatar. User needs style equals styles.user. That rule there. And it's a little better. But I wanted to extract a couple more components out of that. So let's extract avatar. So make a new component. I'll call it avatar, capital A, of course, .js. Stateless functional. Import React from React. Const avatar equals arrow function. Export default avatar. One nice thing about this homework is it gets you lots of practice creating components, so you can just kind of do it real fast if you actually did it all. So let's return some JSX. And that is just going to be this, more or less. With maybe some exceptions. So there's actually no content inside this element. But now this thing kind of doesn't make sense anymore. So there was actually an avatar.css. So here are those rules. So again, not a whole lot of benefit in seeing me retype those. I will paste them in. And so this is just styles, not styles.avatar now. So let's import that in user info. Import avatar from avatar, /avatar. And where that used to be, I'll do that. Now it seems the avatar is going to be unique for each user, right? In the long run, at least. Looking at the static version, each user has their own avatar, right? And if you looked at the static version, I'd already taken this out in the React version. If you look at the static version of the avatar, it has a background image from adorable.io. So let's look at that. Avatars.adorable.io. So it's a way to get unique avatars for any email address without people having to upload images and stuff like that. And it's guaranteed to get the same avatar back for the same email address all the time. Just type in the email address here. Here's abbott@adorable.io. Tell it the size. We want to go all the way down to 40 pixels. Tell it if you want it round or not. Whatever. And it'll give you something to copy in there. So I've already kind of done that here. I just had the one for davey@getfretless.com. Davey@fretless.com is really my email address, but that one works too, and I liked that avatar better, so that's why I put it there. The 32 doesn't actually work. 40 is the smallest you're ever going to get. So I want something like that to happen. Problem is, the user's email address goes in there. So I'm going to have to deal with that somehow. So I can't just put background in here, right? Because if I put it in there, the user has to come through as a prop. So I couldn't get the user's email. So what I have to do is actually combine this style with an inline style. But we learned that trick yesterday. We're definitely going to need the user info inside avatar, right? We're going to have to pass that prop in. And I'll tell you, one thing I'm getting sick of is props.this and that. So we're going to learn a new trick here, which is destructuring arguments. And here's, it's an ES6 feature. You know what? Let's do it on the next one. Let's do it on the next one. Okay, we'll say user equals props.user. So now avatar has that too. So how can I do this inline background image while still getting all of these styles? Right. So it's not actually an object within an object. It is two sets of curly braces. But the outer curly braces aren't actually an object. They're just the thing saying that this is a JavaScript expression, right? But yeah, put an actual object literal in here. Use the spread operator to get all of the styles out of that. And then just add our background. So background, colon, it's got to be a string, URL, and it's going to be something like this, except with the user's email address. So stick that in there. So I'll make this a template literal with backticks. So I can say $, curly brace, props.user.email, which right this second isn't a thing. So I'll go to app.js, username, Maggie, email, Maggie@AOL.com. Had an email address for a long time, never updated it. And behold, we have an avatar now. So we're not done with all this just yet. So in user info, we still have this avatar rule with the margin right 0.5 rem, which was not in avatar CSS. It was out here for some reason. And that's because we also use the avatars in the actual chat window without that margin. The margin is being applied a different way there. So I don't always want avatar to have a margin right of half a rem, just whenever it's inside this user info. So what I could do is when I include my avatar component, I can still pass in a style prop and say styles.avatar. Now that's not going to magically apply that to the div, but it is going to give me a new prop. So my props will now have props.style. So how about that? Why not? And whatever I pass in on this avatar component as a prop, I will now apply as actual style to the avatar. And there's my margin. So add user info and avatar components. Ooh, okay, network is down. That's super inconvenient at a time like this.